Welcome.
Thank you. Chairman Bernier and members of the Campaigns and Election Committee, my name is Scott Ross. I'm the Executive Director of One Wisconsin Now and the One Wisconsin Institute. And I'm here today in strong opposition to Assembly Bill 493, which we believe is yet another deplorable attempt to find a way to make voting more complicated for seniors, minorities, and students. The reality is, your unconstitutional voter ID law is not fixable, and most certainly not by means of this bill. If there was ever a question about what voter ID really is about, the recent comments by federal judge Richard Posner lays it to rest. Posner, as was mentioned earlier, authored the 2007 opinion that upheld the Indiana voter ID law upon which the Wisconsin Republicans' efforts are based. He publicly rebuked his decision, saying voter ID laws are, quote, now widely regarded as a means of voter suppression rather than fraud prevention. In addition to Posner's recanting his decision in the Indiana case, because of the intent of the law, there is a key difference between Indiana and Wisconsin. As detailed in our amicus brief, the One Wisconsin Institute's amicus brief, which was accepted into the court in the NAACP versus Walker case, Wisconsin residents lack the same access to Department of Motor Vehicles offices as Indiana residents. Over 6% of Wisconsin voting age residents lack access to transportation. Of those individuals without access to a vehicle, nearly 50,000 live more than 10 miles from a DMV service center. Moreover, the DMV service centers are open for limited hours. In fact, 41 are open just 2 days each week, 7 are open just a few hours for 1 day each month, and 3 are open just 1 day every quarter. Only one DMV center is open on Saturday, and no other ones have weekend or evening hours. In contrast, Indiana has 140 Bureau of Motor Vehicles open 5 days a week and 124 that are open on the weekends. And, as in Indiana, the case in Wisconsin that the fraud this seeks to prevent simply does not exist. Despite numerous investigations and untold amounts spent by the state attorney general and the Bush-era Department of Justice, there has been no evidence that's been uncovered of widespread voting impropriety in Wisconsin. Millions of votes have been cast, and a handful of impropriety has been found, and none of it has been the in-person voter impersonation that a voter ID law is intended to combat. In fact, when my organization submitted open records requests to many of you and your colleagues' offices for proof of the voting impropriety on which your rhetorical claims and votes were based, we received nothing of substance. The real fraud in Wisconsin occurs right here in this building when politicians attempt to manipulate the rules on voting to gain an unfair partisan political advantage. Significantly, this issue, the issue this legislation attempts to address is also nothing less than a de facto admission that your previous attempts at voter ID represented a poll tax. Your proposal to fix this, as embodied in AB 493, in a word, is troubling. Segregating ballots cast by legal voters based on their economic circumstances and authorizing the investigation of these voters' finances is an open intimidation to harassment and intimidation. Our founding fathers created a system in which on election day everyone's equal, young or old, rich or poor, because everyone gets one vote, and they get to have that vote counted. This so-called fix undermines that premise. It is shockingly undemocratic and fundamentally un-American. We are rightly proud of our tradition of open government, high rates of voter participation, and clean elections in Wisconsin. For generations, it has been understood that legal voters doing their civic duty and voting is not a problem, it's a public good. Voting ought to be encouraged, not attacked with onerous new laws that serve no purpose but to attempt to disenfranchise certain groups to provide any political party with an unfair advantage. On behalf of the voters of Wisconsin, I say we are not the enemy, and our participation in elections is not the problem. Stop trying to change the rules on voting to make it more complicated and less convenient for us to participate in our democracy. Thank you.